Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D.
Brief.
This is the D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the D.
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I am Seth Wrestler, and this is the show for Detroit artists and entertainers, and about Detroit artists and entertainers.
And I'm Becky Scarcello. We're getting slap happy.
Yes, yes, we are. Joy. That's because the guy who's joining us is very funny. He's been with us all week. Stand-up comedian Zach Martina. Welcome back.
I didn't know what else. I came in pretty hot the last few days, and I ran out of original stuff.
Darn.
So I said, when in doubt, make a fart noise.
Yeah,
that is a fun noise to make, though.
It is, and it
Can
works.
we all do it together? Just
Sure.
one on three.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. That's a sound bite. You got to use that all the time now.
No, we don't. We actually don't. Unless our audience is 7-year-old boys.
They all are. They all, in their heart somewhere.
Well, because men in general are still 7-year-old boys.
The new album is called Not the Worst Dad. People can get it anywhere.
That's true.
Spotify, you can find it on Apple,
iTunes, Amazon, Pandora, all that stuff.
So speaking of your fart noises and such, I want to know about the jokes that didn't make it. Like what things that you thought would be great, and then they just...
I maintain that the jokes that didn't make it are great. They're just a little bit...
They're just misunderstood?
Too dark right now.
Oh.
They're too dark, and I have to just round out a couple edges so the point gets across well.
You mean like given our time, like the vibe?
They're just real dark.
Okay, in general.
They're just the types of jokes that I find hysterical that might cause a crater in a comedy audience that I have to dig out of. And when I'm putting out an album, I'll do them on live shows. Come out to Bakers and Milford on March 6th, and I'll do them. And you'll see how uncomfortable it gets. But we'll get back from it. Yeah, they're just dark. I like dark. I think dark's so funny. It's real.
I'm curious, when you record an album, is everything on the album the entire set exactly as it was, or are there little edits and tweaks here and there?
It's pretty much exactly as was. Yeah, you try and make it as seamless as possible, and I really work with a through line. I want everything to connect and a story being told, and the listener to be engaged. So it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, like I said, I cut out a couple bits, and that's here, and that's bound to happen. But for the most part, it as is.
Cool. Well, we're glad you're back. Hang out, and we're going to have one last fun day.
Cool.
Becky, let's talk about trivia.
Okay, so my last day of Hamtramck Trivia. It's a quirky place. There's lots of history, art, culture, places to shop and eat. And I picked out some unusual spots in Hamtramck, and I want you to tell me which of these is not an actual place or thing in the Hamtown. Rat Queen Vintage, a Negro Baseball League ballpark, a Punchki merry-go-round, giant wooden ice cream cone, and a statue of Pope John Paul II.
One of these is not?
One of these does not exist.
4 of them do?
Yes.
Let's hear the choices again.
Rat Queen Vintage, Negro Baseball League ballpark, Punchki merry-go-round, giant wooden ice cream cone, statue of Pope John Paul II.
What is Rat Queen Vintage? Like, I don't even know what that is. Is that just... that sounds like the name of a
I mentioned to you, yes.
The
these
Negro
are places
League baseball park I know is real.
I think it's the wooden ice cream cone.
You think
does not exist?
It does not exist in Hamtown.
Pope John Paul, that sounds weird enough that it might. Because you know that there's that... I've never been. Have you been to Hamtramck Disneyland?
No. But where are they putting it? It's 2 miles. It's 2 square miles.
No, it's a guy's backyard.
It's a guy's backyard.
Yeah.
But
installation.
But it's an installation.
You can't actually ride on the thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that was because I just drove to it one day. I did, and kind of showed up and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's frowned upon.
Yes.
So you're going with the wooden ice cream cone? All right, give me the choices one more time.
Okay. Rat Queen Vintage. You said it's already not the Negro Baseball League Park, which is correct. That is an actual place. Punchki merry-go-round, giant wooden ice cream cone, statue of John Paul II.
Punchki merry-go-round. I think you made that one up.
But if that one isn't there, it's got to be on its way, right? Like that has plans.
Right.
I thought so too, but that's correct, Seth.
Yes.
I made that one up, but just because I think it should be there.
It should
I
be
think
there.
it should absolutely be there.
Right?
Right next to the RoboCop statue.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. Nope. He gets the
Oh, yeah. Yay for Seth.
Do you guys ever try to be polite? Like, do you ever have to fart and you decide you're going to hold it, but then your body does like that reverse swallow, and then you burp and you're like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. That's why I don't hold in farts anymore, because I would rather you smell shit than me taste it.
See, you say you don't like fart jokes, but there you are, cackling.
You guys couldn't tell. She moved off mic. She didn't want you to hear it.
Exactly. I'm like, back away. Way back here.
That's Zach Martina. It's a little
told you
piece
I'm
of the new
slap
album.
A little piece of the new album. Yeah. Okay.
All right, Becky, you did an interview earlier this week. Let's talk about it.
I did. So this was a lot of fun. So I got to interview Jessy Hodges. She's an actress from Metro Detroit, Huntington Woods, in fact, where I live. She grew up there. So she's been in all kinds of TV spots. She's been in Grey's Anatomy, True Blood, Enlisted, Barry, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She was in this really well-acclaimed web series called Anyone But Me. And she's also married to Beck Bennett from SNL. And she's currently in her perhaps most visible role to date on NBC's show Indebted. It's a new sitcom out. They're 3 episodes in. And it's all about these baby boomer parents. So they're played by Steven Weber and Fran Drescher. They made some bad decisions in their life, and all of a sudden they're broke. So they have to move in with their adult son, his wife, and kid.
This is a frighteningly realistic
It's very
premise.
realistic. Yes, exactly. And Jessy plays Joanna, who is their daughter. Doesn't live in this crazy house, but is sort of like periphery to all these goings on. So it's all about, her own struggles with like dating. She takes care of a bunch of dogs. She works at a dog groomer place, and, she's kind of watching all this go on with also having her own neuroses. So they're just kind of those quirky characters dealing with what's up. So I got a chance to talk to her all about Metro Detroit. And again, the whole thing is going to be in our app, and I encourage you because we had a lot of fun. But just a few things that we'll point out today in the show. I really wanted to ask her about just, coming from the Midwest where you don't think of like acting powerhouse kind of town, what was the advantage of that?
I really, first of all, loved growing up in the Midwest, and particularly in Huntington Woods. I think that a cool thing about being in the arts, and particularly we're actors in the Midwest, is that you're not necessarily the dominant force. Like there's a lot of sports in the Midwest. There's a lot of other stuff, but there's not a ton of people acting or trying to be actors. You kind of feel like you're part of this like little niche community, which is really fun. And I didn't recognize this at the time, but now looking back on it, I'm really grateful that I was able to, not to sound cheesy, but to kind of cultivate my art, to kind of become an artist in Michigan, in a place like Michigan, because it was so pure. It was so kind of unspoiled by, I know a lot of kids now, a lot of people now who grew up in Los Angeles and New York, and that's very different. Even if it's something that you're just exploring as a kid, there's inevitably a professional element to it. You're surrounded by it. You're really part of more of like the dominant community here than anything kind of in the minority. So I had a lot of opportunities. I was really able to kind of explore in a pretty non-judgmental world because not a lot of people were doing it.
Zach, does that resonate with you? I mean, being able to start comedy here in the Midwest as opposed to an industry town like a New York or an
I think
LA?
so. I think you get to get good at these crafts, acting, comedy, music, these live performances, you get good in a smaller audience where industry isn't necessarily have their eyes on you, and it allows you to prepare over time. So when the eyes are upon you, you're ready. I think that's, I mean, I would tell anybody in Michigan to start in Michigan. I mean, you talk to people in Los Angeles or New York, if they start, it is a slugfest out there. Yeah. And if you don't know what you're doing, it could be really, really dismaying. So, I mean, I'm thrilled. I share Jessy's opinion 100%. I'm thrilled that I'm from Michigan and have come up through.
So the stakes are a little lower when you can start out here and you can,
absolutely
kind of get the ground beneath
get your
feet.
confidence and. Yeah.
You can also rebound much quicker. Like if you get hit hard, you can. It's not. Nobody saw that. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Right. So you can short memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you hear? Because we know a number of comics who have been on the show who have gone out to LA, for example.
Yeah.
You know, Josh Adams is going now. We've had Jeff Horst.
Jeff Horst, Brad Wenzel.
Yeah,
Carl Flanagan. Esther's out there. Yeah. So many great comics out in LA, by the way. From Detroit. Detroit is well represented out there in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What do you hear from them about the scene and how is it different from here in Detroit?
I mean, I'll get out there maybe once a year and stay out there for about a week and 10 days. And I mean, it's a hustle. You can get up every day, but it's a lot of time just showing face. It's starting over. You start in Detroit and you become this excuse the cliche, but this big fish in a small pond, and then all of a sudden you go to the ocean and you got to figure out how to survive, how to eat. You gotta meet these people. You gotta meet the people that run the clubs. You got the quote unquote gatekeepers, and you just gotta keep your head up because there have been people there trying to do exactly what you're doing, and they've been out there for 5 or 6 years, making relationships, building friendships, starting shows, podcasts, what have you. So it's a grind. It is a grind, and I'm sure all of my dear friends have thought at some point about quitting, but because of the caliber of people that they are, they rose above and have continued on.
They're not listening to this.
They are. I'm going to post it, and they're my friends.
They're listening.
They better listen.
Well, I talked to Jessy too, like where her inspiration started from, because she grew up as the daughter of Ellen Sandweiss, who played Cheryl Williams in all the Evil Dead movies. So her mom was this actress, but she'll tell you in the clip, but she didn't actually really know that much. It was more about, just how they conducted their family life sort of thing. But I asked her what the influence was on her, chosen career path.
We were constantly recreating scenes from movies and dressing up and performing for each other and singing and acting and doing accents, and like it was just like in our water. So my mom's influence was enormous, but it was like a little bit more pure. I didn't really have any understanding for the fact that it was actually like a real career that someone could have. It was more just this like passion.
I wonder if your kids will be saying that someday.
There is sounds a lot like my house, but I'll tell you what I don't think she mentioned, but it shines through in her words and her tone and the way she's saying it is it didn't ever feel like work with her when her mom and her were doing those things together. They were having a good time. I mean, you can just tell in her tone of voice that she speaks very, very fondly of those memories. So she has, it sounds, followed her dream, and it's fun. Very few people in this world get to do what they love to do, what they consider to be fun for a living. And it sounds like she's been having fun since she was a kid.
Exactly. And she went to NYU for acting school. And I think that was, at first she thought, well, maybe I'll just go to school, but not have the audition part, not have the acting part. And just one person kind of told her, well, no, that's crazy. Like, you're born to do this. And she just then had the confidence and, ended up moving to LA. And it struck me how much influence even just the casual person can have on you when you're a creative and this is something you're passionate about. So I asked her in turn, what would be her advice to aspiring entertainers? I
feel so fortunate to have gone to NYU, and I realize that is not necessarily an option for everyone. But one of the big things that it gave me is this really vibrant place and community. So I met all these amazing people, and then I was also in this city that had so many opportunities. So I would basically say, try to recreate that for yourself. Go to New York, go to LA, go to Chicago, go to the places where the great things are happening and get involved.
Do you agree?
Yeah, if that is something that you have the means to do, absolutely. You've got to put yourself in the position to seize the day, seize the opportunity. What I like about show business, though, not just comedy, but anything, there's no one path for anyone. I mean, you kind of just, it sounds so corny, but just follow your heart, do what's right by you, and just try it. It really is a game of survival.
At what point in your career did you say to yourself, for me to grow, I've now got to go see this community in other places, whether it was a Chicago or whether it was going out to...
That is not something that is in my immediate or extended future. As we've discussed over this just joyous week of the debrief, my family is first and foremost for me. I really feel like I got funny when I became a family man. I feel like I started relating and everything, and I would never ever uproot my daughters from the community that they're growing up in, and I would never ask my wife to give up her career, mainly because we would tank without it. But, if I could financially give my family the quality of life that they have grown accustomed to, I would absolutely take them to do what needs to be done. But I would never, ever ask them to make any kind of sacrifice like that.
But you do have relationships with comedians in other cities at this point.
Absolutely.
So,
that's one thing I do love about comedy is, it's this tight-knit group of people where I can go to LA and not have seen someone for 2 years, but I can pick up right where I left off. Same to be said for Davenport, Iowa, or down in Jacksonville, Florida. Anywhere. It's just you build these relationships and they last because of the like nature, the like mind.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point what you're saying. There's not just one path. And Jessy met Beck and they started going out in California, in LA. And then shortly after that, he got the gig at SNL. So he lives in New York. So they go back and forth. Sure. She's like, it works for now, but it's a lot of different decisions and where you can work and what you can do. And so I think the point is just moving forward and making a decision and what your priorities are and then seizing the opportunities that are open to you.
And once you make that decision, you cannot, don't look back.
Right.
Because that doesn't do any good.
No regrets.
Cool. Well, the show is called Indebted. You can catch it Thursday nights at 9:30 on NBC. Thanks to Jessy Hodges of Huntington Woods. And if people want to hear your entire conversation, Becky, with Jessy, they can actually find it in the mobile app.
That's right. Download the app. It's free. And we talked about lots of good stuff, especially if you're from this area. I think you'll appreciate. I asked her kind of what she misses, what she comes home to enjoy, and all sorts of inside baseball stuff.
Very cool.
Zach, we're going to play a game in just a moment here, but before we do that, I do want to make one announcement. There's an opportunity for artists, the DIY Street Fair, which we've talked about a number of times on this podcast. That is coming back to Ferndale in September. Over 75,000 people show up to this thing, and they're buying all kinds of art. So if you are an artisan, basically a person who makes stuff, and you want to sell it, it's usually stuff that's priced between $1 and $250. Now is the time to apply. The deadline is May 30th. All the details are at FerndaleDIY.com. All right, Zach, are you ready to play a little game?
Let's play.
Here's how this works. We're going to ask you...
Very off-putting intro music to this game.
That's the point.
We're going to ask you
Maybe we should switch that with the fart noises.
Yeah, that's fun.
That would be, yeah.
We're going to ask you a series of rapid-fire questions. Just tell us the first thing that comes to mind. Starting with this. Where is your favorite place in the city to go see a concert?
St. Andrews.
Ooh.
Because that's where I see the most.
Who's the last person you saw there?
I saw Hannibal Buress there not too long ago. And then I guess the Filmer is also great. If we're going to go further, I saw Conan O'Brien and Rory was on that one and a bunch of great I don't see a lot of music. I see comedy.
Makes sense. What's your favorite place for late night food?
Anything that's open.
You're not picking.
I want it in my mouth.
Do you have a favorite local TV personality?
Just because of his staying power, probably Bernie Smilovitz, right? He's still doing sports, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah. Devin Scillian was there. I don't know. Wait, can they be old?
Yeah.
Oh, Bill Bonds for sure. I used
okay, good.
Bill Bonds for sure. No, I'm sorry. I thought it was kind of like current. No, Bill Bonds. I used to be a valet at Oakland Hills Country Club, and Bill Bonds was a member there before he passed away, and he was the kindest, like most charming, charismatic dude, and just spoke to me as a 22-year-old kid running to get his car like I was an equal. And I really look back fondly on some of those conversations that I had with him. He was great. And then, I mean, he is Ron Burgundy. Like, there's no way that that's not Anchorman's. It's great.
That's the inspiration for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so when you do get a chance to spend some time with your wife, what's a good place to go on a romantic date?
We did just go down to oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the steakhouse. It's a big steakhouse down in Detroit.
Prime and Proper.
Yeah, Prime and Proper. It was very good. And then I hooked up with my brother, who I hadn't seen in a while, and just got sloppy drunk, which was I love Detroit for that.
That's a romantic date for you. That's cool.
My sister likes to. And my sister and my brother, they just get after it, and they make my wife feel so welcome. But we had the dinner alone first.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Where's your favorite place in Detroit to spend a day with the kids?
Eastern Market. We like to do that. It's the Flower Day, right? I can't remember what it's actually called, but
in May.
Yeah, we like to go out in May, Flower Day, and we like to do that a lot.
That's because you can be really loud because there's so many people there.
So can they.
Yeah. How about an up-and-coming comic here in town that people should know about?
In town, I mean, there's so many great comics in Michigan. Samantha Rager is absolutely
she's been on the podcast.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
She's great. She just had an album come out not too long, about a year ago.
And we have it on our mobile app.
Yes.
Louis Michael is a dude who's going to be with me this week in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Davenport, Iowa. He's a very, very funny guy who works super hard. Same to be said for Brett Hayden. I love Justin O'Leary, James Elliott. There are a lot of people working really hard, and I mean, there's a whole different scene of comics in Lansing and Grand Rapids. I feel like I'm giving an acceptance speech at the Academy Awards. I know I'm going to leave someone out, but no, I love all of you.
I like it.
I did it!
There's the music to play you off the stage.
Yay.
That's far more welcoming than
This is the part where you do cartwheels and you're right on your way.
Zach Martina, thank you so much.
I really appreciate y'all having me.
All week. This was
Lots
great. The new album is called Not the Worst Dad.
That's
People
right.
can get it anywhere. And again, the next time to see you in town.
Bakers of Milford, March 6th in Milford, Michigan, or Wednesday, March 11th, I will be in Detroit, Michigan at the Fort Street Gallery.
Zach Martina, that's Zach, Z-A-C-H. Look him up, find him. He's funny. You can also see him playing Matt Patricia in a number of videos.
Yeah, we got I got an off-season video coming out, a free agent acquisition when that happens, and then I'll do a draft by pick analysis. So,
awesome.
So much to look
stuff to do.
forward to. And you have another album, too, called
Skunk Man.
Skunk Man.
The first
I love
one. That one's out
Yes.
there on Spotify and iTunes and all those places as well.
Excellent, excellent.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Don't forget that we've got links to all the things that we talk about on this show on our website. It is thedebriefdetroit.com. Becky, let's close out the week with a song.
Sure. So the Hamtramck Music Festival started last night, continues tonight and tomorrow. This is another one of the local Detroit bands playing. They're called The Lows. This is a groove rock song called Love Will Find a Way. They've opened sold out shows for people like Stone Temple Pilots, Puddle of Mud, Sponge, Verve Pipe. These guys get around.
Cool. Until next week, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
Thanks again, guys.
I wrote the book on giving in, so there's no way I'm giving in. Well, I see an angel now and then. That's how I know it never ever ends. He's got the weight of the world succeed. I never know just what you need. I'm all caged up but feeling free. The words you say never meant that much to me. You've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. You've got the weight of the world coming down on. You've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. You've got the weight of the world coming down on you. And in this blurred reality, love will find a way. And in our crazed mentality, love will find a way. Yeah, you don't really have a say. Love will find a way. What you say, what you say. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. Yeah. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. Love will find a way.
The debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.